There wasn't much physicality besides just like hustling up and doing it and then being finished with it. But I will say the training before was probably the most physical, even though it wasn't even that much training. So
Jane, it's great to get to meet you and talk with you for It's a Wonderful Knife. It is such a fun movie. As a horror genre fan and as a Michael Kennedy fan, I mean, it just fits so nicely into that mold. What about the project really sparked your initial interest to want to be a part of it?
I loved Winnie as a character. I love the whole final girl aspect. I've been a really big fan of that in the horror genre. I'm a really big fan of the film X, which has an insane final girl. So I think that really drew me in, but also I don't know, just the warmth of it. Like it is a scary film, but there is this heartwarming, gooey center to the film that I fell in love with. And like you said, I'm also a huge Michael Kennedy fan. So that was the other thing. I was like, I've seen Freaky. I know where this is going to go. And I want to be on board.
He always takes such great familiar concepts and turns them into something wild. It's so much fun to see.
Yeah.
Now, you talk about loving Winnie. What would you say about her in the script really helped you connect to her and bring her to life on screen?
So at the beginning, when we first see Winnie and she's in the town, we actually cut out a beginning scene that was in that where I take a bite out of a bun and then I take a picture kind of a la George Bailey with the suitcase that he gets.
Yeah.
But we ended up cutting that out. But in the script, it says we first see Winnie and she has what seems to be an air of loneliness. And I loved that description because she is kind of, the girl that's, sorry, my voice, the girl that's in the popular group of kids, but does feel like an outsider. And I loved that. And I loved that piece of how Michael was able to tie that in. And I love his descriptions and the scripts. They're amazing.
Part of me wants to see that scene, but another part of me feels like it is sort of better without it. So maybe a bonus feature.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe it'll end up in like an extended cut somewhere down the line. Who knows?
There you go. That'd be fun to see. Now, this movie also requires a lot of physicality as you're in a lot of those scenes with the killer. What was it like, having to be extra physical and choreograph those fight scenes as they are in the movie?
We did 3 rehearsals prior to filming, and we had an amazing stunt team. Yusuf was our stunt coordinator, and he's amazing. And then Cody Lawden played our angel, and he was just super nice and really informative, helped guide me through each step and told me, like, this is what you have to do, this is what you have to do. And also, I don't care if you hurt me because, like, you're fine, And I was like, no, like, I was so scared I was going to hurt him. But we were able to do it and make it seem so believable, because I think part of what we were struggling with was, like, can we do this certain thing and keep everybody safe and have it look right? That's kind of like the whole thing with stunts. And I think we were able to do a really great job of that. Like, camera and stunt came together in such a beautiful way, which I loved. The physicality honestly wasn't too bad. I think it's just because we were filming so quick. We only had like 3 or 4 takes to get each of these stunt scenes. So, there wasn't much physicality besides just like hustling up and doing it and then being finished with it. But I will say the training before was probably the most physical, even though it wasn't even that much training. So,
was there any one scene in particular you recall being the most challenging in that sense?
Yeah, the one where Bernie and I are running out of her house and I open the door and the angel is right there. That was just a whole mess to try and film and navigate because I couldn't physically kick the door. They had to have somebody on the ground swing the door and slam it shut because it was a liability if I kicked the door. It's like, fair enough, okay, So it was just timing that and all that, but it looks great. I wouldn't be able to believe that it wasn't me kicking the door now. So
yeah. I definitely didn't catch it. So that's that.
So,
they pulled it off well.
See a little like PA down at the
bottom. Well, it's done well. Now, speaking of Bernie, actually, I love the dynamic that you two have throughout the movie. And I'm struggling to remember the actor's name at the moment, but I love the way. There you go. Yes, Jess McLeod. I love the way you two bring your characters to life on screen and bond. What was it like developing that relationship with Jess, both prior to and during filming?
Yeah, so we met, I want to say maybe like 3 days before we started filming. And the first time we met was in a little director's workshop session. And immediately there was just so much chemistry between the two of our characters together in a scene, which was just crazy to see because, Jess and I have become friends through filming, and we have like zero chemistry as two actors and two people. But when our characters are on screen, there's so much chemistry. It's just like, it's just weird, like film things that happen. But it was really, really cool. And actually the ending piece, surprise, was not planned. Jess and I were on set, and we kind of both, I think it was second day of set, we both had this idea, like, if we don't do this, it would be queer baiting. So we kind of need to make this happen. And these characters have so much chemistry. We can't not give them the justice that they deserve. So that was really cool to be able to work with Michael and Tyler, and they were on board from the get-go. So it was really cool. And it was a really, really collaborative process between all of us.
I was definitely waiting for that moment to happen and was like, come on, just let it happen.
No,
Let them
if
have
we
it.
didn't put it in, it would have been bad. We had to put it in.
You had to get to that gooey center like you were talking about earlier.
Exactly.
So I'm glad that it was that collaborative process though, and that you made it happen. Now, you talked earlier about your love of final girl elements, and you work against two horror genre vets in this. You have Justin Long and you have Catherine Isabel. What was it like working with, those established genre actors and learning from them as much as, putting your own stamp on the genre?
Oh my gosh, it was so cool. I mean, I just was awed to watch her work every day. She's so, just laughing, like having a good time before. And then as soon as she's in character, it's like she is a completely different person. And she almost looks like a different person on screen when you look behind the camera. So it's just really cool to see that. And she always brings such cool elements to the scene that I wouldn't think of that I really like. Like, for example, when she's stepping over the body and she does the little thing with her toes. I love that. Just the little things that she does is amazing. And then with Justin, I mean, that man can ad lib and go off on. So I don't know how his brain works like that. He just will go on and on and on, and it's so good every single time. You're just laughing and cracking up, and he just hits the mark every single time. And it was really, really cool to watch how he was able to do that. And I mean, same with Joel. Joel's really good at ad libbing and, the comedy aspect. Both of them are comedy legends. And it was just really, really cool to see both of them work and find those comedic moments, which I'm still learning to do. And so it was really, really cool to be able to see them and watch them work.
I've loved Justin's work for years, since Dodgeball, when I first watched it as a kid, and now to see him continue is just great. And I actually wanted to expand on Joel because you have such a unique relationship with him, and that you go from loving him one moment to having to hate him essentially.
Yeah.
As you go to an alternate universe. What is that like for you as an actor, navigating those two very different dynamics through filming?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I definitely had to keep pre-Winnie and post-Winnie in my head. Part of what I did to prep for this is I went through the script probably 3 times in its entirety, start to finish, because there was no other way for my brain to be able to understand everything that happens. I also wrote out a huge timeline that kind of makes me look like a crazy person because there's like every little nitty gritty detail. And I did this before I'd even booked it. I was just very into it. But I think those type of things really help in terms of being able to switch in and out, because I mean, the first scene that we filmed is the one where I'm walking onto the balcony of my look out at my parents' house, and I say, "Not another Christmas." And then the second scene we filmed was me running in after and giving my parents a hug at the very end of the movie. So just you're going like up and down all day, up and down and up and down. So it really did help me doing that, going through them in its entirety so that I could just go back and immediately go to my notes. And I also did like do some like recording sessions like a crazy person with voice memos on my phone. And I would go back and listen to like each section before the start of each day and go to each scene. And then I would listen like before to what was going on before in the script and what was going on right after. It was a process, but it was really, really cool. I've never done anything like it in my acting career. So I loved being able to sink my teeth into it and really get some heavy research done.
Well, the extra steps paid off because I mean, you play it all so well across the film.
Thank you.
I'm curious though. I mean, we talked about Michael's own past in this genre, but I'm curious if he or Tyler gave you any homework, so to speak, of movies to watch to help you get in the mood for this film.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say it was like homework, like you have to watch these. But Tyler did put together an incredible lookbook before we started shooting, and it had a bunch of different movies that he had referenced off the top of my head. Scream. It's a Wonderful Life. Yes. X was on there. Scrooged was on there. Another one. There were a few. Oh, Ready or Not. That was a big one. Yeah, those are the ones that I can think of for now. But he had a huge collage of just each movie, and like the movies where the pictures were bigger, or like the ones that influenced it more. It was really cool. The way Tyler's brain works is so cool. So it was really.
I love that. Scrooged is an underrated pull for Christmas movies. So
yes. I would agree. I think it's one of his favorite Christmas movies, if not his favorite Christmas movie, but I could be wrong.
It's a great choice to get a little subversive in the holiday season. Now, I'm curious to hear about location shooting on this one, because obviously sometimes winter shoots can end up being, or winter set films can be shot in the summer or vice versa. And I'm curious if you were actually in, snowy locations and how that affected you during filming.
We were in a cold location. So we were in Vancouver from mid-March to mid-April. So it wasn't actively snowing. There was no snow on the ground. It was like still a little chilly. You could see our breath at night, which Tyler really wanted. He did not want a CGI-N breath. But it's funny because you see a lot of snow around. They actually would go every single day, I think like maybe at night or in the early parts of the morning, they would go to all the hockey ice skating rinks around, which are plentiful in Vancouver, and take all of the plowed, like what do you call those things that the
shavings?
Yeah, the shavings from the ice rink that they would plow every single day. And they would pile it all into a little truck that would like come around, and it was the snow truck, and it was free snow because they didn't need it anymore. So, balling on a budget. So
that's pretty incredible. So then with it being somewhat chilly, what was it like running down the street yelling it's Christmas that day in that in that Christmas outfit that you had?
That was probably my like sixth run down the block. I was pretty warmed up at that point. Like that was not bad. They kept me in so many layers too if I needed it. And I had like hot shots in my pocket and warmers in my boots. I was set. It was all good. And it's nothing I'm unfamiliar with after Yellow Jackets, because we had some cold days on that set. So
I was going to say, you've got a little bit of experience there to help you with this one. So that's great. But I see I am out of time. So I'm glad you had so much fun with this one. And I truly did. And I can't wait to spread the word about it. So thank you so much for taking the time. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Have a good weekend.